I'll put a space in here, try to write as neat as you can, and I'll get a title of this drawing. This is Ortho number 1. I'll put a space here, or a hyphen in here, and I'll put scale. And that's going to be 1 inch, colon, ½ inch. So what that indicates is that I'm the guy that designed this product, and I'm the guy that's labeled it. I'm Richard Platt. I labeled it Orthographic 1 or Ortho 1. I set a scale on this of 1 inch is going to be equal to ½ inch. So now when I look at the drawing here, what that translates to is that for every 5 inches, if I take my scale or my ruler and I lay it on there, that'll come into at 2½ inches. So for every 1 inch that I've measured, it'll be ½ inch indicated on the drawing. If I would take this 5-inch drawing and try to put it in this drawing centered up, it would take up too much space. So that's why for this purpose I draw 1 inch here equal ½ inch. That's the scale of my drawing. Okay, pull that out of the way and we'll start drafting this guy up. Okay. The first thing I need to do is find 2½ inches. So I'll come out here and I'll find 2½ inches. I'll make myself a mark. And again, this is where the 30, 60, 90 and the t-square work together. So at this point, I'll draw lightly here up, so I've got a 2-inch mark. And looking at the drawing, it says that it's 1½ inches thick on this part. Well, that would be 3/4 of an inch or 0.75. So I'll come over here and I'll find 0.75. I'll make myself a mark here. Since I know I'm already going to make it there on the top view, I need to go ahead and make it over here on the right view as well. So I'll put those 2 marks in. Using my t-square, I'll move it up to where I made that mark, come across here. And that line's going to be a little heavier because I know I'm accurately on that. I'll slide my t-square down a little bit, and I'll make this line here as well a little heavier. Then I'll bring my 30-60 down, or my t-square down, grab my 30-60 triangle, and I'll come in and make a light, in this case, vertical line going down. Okay? Now, the height of this part says that it's 2½ inches, as indicated there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take half of 2½, which is 1 1/4. Okay? I'll make that 1 1/4. So I've got that mark right there at 1 1/4 inches to designate the height of this part. I'm going to come across here and trace that in, pretty heavy. Then come over here, draw a heavy line over here to this edge. So now I've accurately portrayed the bottom of the front view of my part and the bottom of the front of the right view of my part. So with that done, I'll go over here and look at this reference drawing again. I know this is 1 inch right here, so half of 1 inch is a ½ inch. So I'll come over here and I'll mark that at a ½ inch right here, make me a mark, and that mark will justify the use of this 30, 60, 90, again, perpendicular to my t-square. So I'll make a line up this way, make a mark there. I'm going to go ahead, since I've got some time here and got the t-square already set up and the 30-60 set up, I'm going to darken up these outside lines as you see here. Okay, looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and darken up this one up here, and essentially the top view of this part is complete. We've completed the top view of this part, and that's good. Now I need to figure out, looking at my reference drawing, this line right here. So that's a ½ inch. So half of a half is a 1/4 of an inch. So it'd be 1/4 or 0.25 of an inch. And so what I'm going to do now is take my scale or my ruler, whatever you prefer to call it, and I'll make myself a mark here. Okay? So with that done, I'll move my t-square up, draw across the horizontal line for the front of the part on the right side. Come over here and make a cross section on this line, as you see. So I got that point and I got that point. So now I'll take my 30-60 or any straight edge for that matter, and I'll line up, as we say in the business, connect the dots. So I'll connect these intersecting points with the diagonal line. Okay, so there it is, the diagonal line intersected. Now with that done, I'll take my t-square again, come up here, and I'll start darkening up the lines, because these outer lines of the view of a part are called your object lines. And it's important that those be very readable, or legible in some cases, as people like to call it, and that you can read it very clearly. Most drawings are going to be printed, are going to be reproduced, are going to be scaled up and down. So your line quality and how you use your pencil or how you use your ink pen or drawing pen, it's very important that you are consistent with your line work and your line work is clean. So now, as you can kind of see right here, we've gone ahead, we've got all our object lines darkened up on the top view, the front view, and the right view. Now, these extension lines or some of these are going to be used for dimensions or to help us draft in the dimensions on that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take out this line here, and I'm going to take out this line going across here for my extension lines. Go ahead and pause that for a moment. Okay, in review, what we've done so far is we went ahead and made our drawing sheet into a quadrant. You had your front view, your top view, your front view, and your right view. Then, after we made our quadrant, we came in and made an inch mark off on each side to create the bottom edge and the right edge of the top view, and the same on the front. We made the right view in the top as well as on the right, the left, and the top view here. We use these lines to accomplish a couple things. One, our drawing is completely centered up on our sheet, and it works much better, and it's much easier to read and make out. And especially if this drawing is being done by someone in the United States and the product is being manufactured in Mexico or Canada or China or wherever it's going to be manufactured, it makes the drawing much more legible. Secondly, again, we went to 1 inch equals half scale. So now, this is not the finished product that you're going to be looking at right here. These are the layout of our views for our part we're designing. Now we're going to move over and draft in the isometric. Now, when I do an isometric, I prefer to continue with the 1 inch equal half inch scale. So I will draw my isometric as I did with my other views in the same 1 inch to half inch scale. So let's get started. The 30, 60, 90 triangle is going to be oriented to where it's pointed towards the, if you're looking at the little end, pointed towards my right hand. I'm going to go up to this anchor point that I created here, and I'm going to draw a diagonal, lightly draw a diagonal line like this. Then I'll move it to the right, and I'll draw this vertical line as you see coming up here. We know our dimension on our length was 2.5 inches. So again, I'll make it 2.5 inches here on this diagonal. So I'll make me a mark here. Then while I've got my ruler out, I'll go ahead and go to, instead of being 2.5 inches to scale, I'll go up here to 1 1/4, which is half of that. So I'll get those lines in. Now what I'll do is I'll take my 30/60 and I'll flip it over, as you're seeing here, where it's pointing to my left-hand side. I'll make a light mark there, go up to the top here, and I'll make myself a light mark here as you see. Again, they're light because I need them that way. Now I'm going to flip it back this way and come in here and draft in these lines. Come down to this vertex here and I'll draft in. I work off these corners. I'll try to get as many lines in on these corners before I have to make another measurement, as you've seen here. Okay, we know the thickness of this part is 3/4 of an inch, as indicated by our scale or our ruler. So I'll come over here and I'll go up 3/4 of an inch, and I'll make myself a mark. Hopefully I can get that mark pretty close there. I'll travel up here with this guy, and I'll make him 3/4 of an inch. I'll make a mark there. So let's go ahead and go back to our 30/60, and we'll just continue like this. With that done, I now have the ability to make a line there. I'll flip this over, and I'll make a line going this way as well. I didn't have to flip it over, but it just made it easier. So now you're starting to see a rectangular cube starting to appear.